Welcome friends, it's Ray. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today's video is a part of the Card Crafters Collaborative Hop here on YouTube, hosted by Robin Marshall Clark, the Delta Crafter. And our theme today is Autumn is Calling. I will link to the next person in the hop. Be sure to go over and check out their video and show them some love. I brought in 3 cards from my color cube, and that's 016, 053, and 011. I have brought in some distress inks in colors that I think are pretty close to some of the swatches on the cards, and I have swatched them out on cardstock, and now I am going to pick the ones that I think match the best. So I've picked Shabby Shutters, Old Paper, Mustard Seed, Wild Honey, Spiced Marmalade, and Rusty Henge to work with, and I might bring in some tea dye, not sure yet. I'm bringing in my mat and a 4.5 by 7 piece of Canson XL watercolor paper, and I'm using the more textured side, and here I am adding a cube swat of each color on my mat, and then I'm going to bring in my water and just give it 1 spray per color. And it looks like these colors are going to match very well together and not create mud. But if I do get a little bit of brown, it's okay, because this is autumn, right? And it looks just fine. So just adding more of the inks to my mat, and we'll spray those with water and apply more to my panel. So I'm just going to ink smush or smush that ink on onto my paper, and I do want more green than I'm getting. So here I'm bringing in my heat tool, and I'm going to dry this layer. And so the key to this technique is to definitely frequently dry your panel, so that when you come in and bring in more color, it's going to layer on top of the color that you already have on your card panel. And so that's what I'm doing here. I'm going to get this good and dry, and then come back in and add more ink smushing to this panel. And here's where I bring in more green, the Shabby Shutters and the Old Paper, and just focus on getting those throughout the panel. And then we'll bring in my heat tool again and heat this layer. And here I'm going to turn my mat around and bring in more of that leftover color. I'm bringing my mustard seed cube direct to paper, adding a little water here, and you'll never know that it was direct. I wanted a little more yellow there. Here I've placed my stencil on top of my panel, and which is dry at this point, and we'll bring in some Hero Arts glitter paste and mix that with some Rusty Hinge. And I just take my cube direct to my mat and add 5 of those to my mat, mix that with my glitter paste, and then I will spread this over top of my stencil. And as I go, I am being sure to kind of smooth that glitter paste in as I go, trying to make it as level as possible so my entire panel, the glitter is level. I do use press and seal to make sure my gel or my paste doesn't dry out, so I will replace that once done here, and then take everything, the stencil and the mat and the my palette knife, and clean those immediately, or at least submerge them in some warm soapy water. And here is the reveal. Love that. I've die cut my leaves and acorn from the Hero Arts Autumn Leaves Fancy Die Set, and bringing in my Altenew Gold, Antique Gold pigment ink and a small blending brush, and am just going around the outer edges of my leaves and applying that gold, just softening that white cardstock a bit. So I'm going to do that for all of the leaves as well as the acorn. Finish that off camera and come back. I'm applying the gold to the entire top of the acorn, and then we'll just finish off the edges, brushing that gold on. I placed those leaves into my splat box and brought in my Imagine Crafts Sheer Sparkle Shimmer Spritz to add some shine to them. I've die cut each leaf 2 more times out of that same 120-pound cardstock, and using liquid adhesive to affix those together. And then we'll put my gold-edged leaf on top and affix that with liquid glue. I do the same for each leaf and the acorn. I forgot to turn my camera back on when placing the gold on top, the gold leaves and acorn on top, and affixing those. And here I brought in my Shabby Shutters ink cube direct to paper and inked that up, and then will off camera dry that with my heat tool and bring it back in and do some ink smooshing with my Rustic Wilderness Distress ink. Off camera, I used embossing ink to stamp my sentiment and applied gold embossing powder, and now I'm heat setting that. Let's pause for random thoughts and questions, #RTQ. What item in your stash do you really wish you had not purchased? For me, that was a cake plate rotating stand that I thought I'd be able to use and rotate my projects, but it wasn't flat enough, so I ended up giving it away to someone who loves to make cakes. I'd really love a comment from you on this using #RTQ. And I'm adding lots of green splatter to my panel that is now dry, using Rustic Wilderness Distress ink and some water. And I added a little bit of Shabby Shutters, but decided I really wanted it darker. And here I am using my old paper distress ink to just add color to the borders or the edges of this piece of white cardstock. I want to match this to the coloring I used on my sentiment strip and of course throughout my panel. And here I am partially releasing the foam tape that I've applied to the back of my panel and adding liquid glue to those exposed areas, and we'll place that on my green inked mat, get it positioned just so, and then remove the remaining release paper. And I did trim my focal image down, or focal panel down, to 4 1/4 by 6 1/4, and then my mat, I just left about 1/8 of an inch all the way around and used my trimmer there to trim that off. I am now affixing my sentiment strip to my card panel and placed my acrylic block over top just to make sure that it adheres. I'm placing double-sided tape behind my leaves because I've got so much texture on my panel. I'm going to use this tape as well as some liquid glue to make sure that these adhere solidly to my panel. Use the same method to place my main panel onto my card base. And I remove the release paper from my leaves, add liquid adhesive, and then place those on my panel and use my acrylic block over top. Here I'm adding some foam tape in between the stems of my leaves because that's where I want to place my acorn, and I want that popped up. And so then I add some foam tape on the right side of my acorn and add liquid glue all over, and then when I place this on my panel, that is going to balance that acorn so that it is level on all sides. And then I bring in some Nuvo glitter drops in Golden Sunset, and I add 3 of those to the top of my panel and then 2 randomly at the bottom, and then I'm going to set this aside to dry. I'm bringing in some metallic gold thread and just wrapping it around my fingers about 6 times, and then I will tie it off in the center before bringing it to my project. Of course, this would have been much easier had I decided to do this before affixing my leaves, but just didn't think about it, and once they were there I thought I need a little extra, so I'm adding this thread. And here I'm bringing in a glue dot and just rolling that around to get it really thin, and then placing it right underneath my acorn, which is where I want my my gold thread, and then just affixing that with my tweezers, and then I'm going to trim this up. Be sure to check out my other crafty friends in this hop. I've listed their information below. As always, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and will give me a thumbs up, and if not a subscriber, consider subscribing. Until next time, good day, friends.